Alright, back to the regularly scheduled program. The End of the Institute. Hell is Waiting by Stephen King. There is actually two more chapters after this one. Sorry for the mistake. We are back where we were. 37. Tim pulled Wendy to her feet. She looked dazed, not entirely sure what she was. There was a shredded piece of paper caught in her hair. The shooting outside had stopped, at least for the moment. It had been replaced by talking, but Tim's eyes were ringing, and he couldn't make out the words. And it didn't matter if they were making peace out there. Good. It would be prudent, however, to expect more war. Wendy? Okay. Tim, they killed Sheriff John. How many others? He shook her. Are you okay? She nodded. Yes, I think. Take Luke out the back. She reached for him. Luke evaded her and ran for the sheriff's desk. Tag Faraday tried to grab his arm, but Luke evaded him too. A bullet had clipped the laptop, knocking it askew, but the home screen, although cracked, was still up and flash drive's little orange ready light was blinking steadily. His ears were also ringing, but he was close to the door now and heard Mrs. Sigsbee say, "Make sure you get the boy." "Oh, you bitch," he thought. "You relentless bitch." Luke grabbed the laptop and dropped to his knees, cradling it to his chest as Alice Green and Tom Jones came through the shattered double doors. Tag raised his sidearm but took a burst from the HK before he could fire, the back of his uniform shirt shredding. The Glock flew from his hand and spun across the floor. The only other deputy still standing, Frank Potter, never moved to defend himself. There was a stunned, unbelieving expression on his face. Alice Green shot him once in the head, then ducked as more gunfire erupted in the street behind him. There were yells and screams of pain. The gunfire and the scream momentarily distracted the man with the HK. Jones wheeled in that direction, and Tim double-tapped him, one in the back of the neck and the other in the head. Alice Green straightened and came on, stepping over Jones, her feet set. And now Tim saw another woman crowding in behind her, an older woman wearing a red pantsuit, also holding a gun. Dear Christ, he thought, how many are there? Did they send an army for one little boy? He's behind the desk, Alice, the older woman said. Considering the carnage, she sounded eerily calm. I can see a bandage on his ear sticking up. Pull him out and shoot him. The woman named Alice came around the desk. Tim didn't bother telling her to stop. They were way past that. Only pulled the trigger of Wendy's Glock. A quick try, although there should have been at least one more round in the clip, and probably two. Even in this do-or-die moment, he understood the reason. Wendy hadn't fully reloaded after the last time she took target practice with it on the gun range over in Dunning. Such things were not high on her list of priorities. He even had time to think, as he had during his early days in Dupre, that Wendy had never been cut out to be a cop. Should have stuck to dispatch, he thought, but too late now. I think we're all going to die. Luke rose up from behind the dispatch desk, the laptop held in both hands. He swung it and hit Alice Green full in the face. The cracked screen shattered. Green staggered back into the woman in the pantsuit, her nose and mouth bleeding, then raised her gun again. Drop it, drop it, drop it, Wendy screamed. She had scooped up Tag Faraday's Glock. Green took no notice. She was aiming at Luke, who was pulling Marine. Albertson's flash drive from the laptop's port instead of ducking for cover. Wendy fired 3 times, eyes slitted, uttering a shrill cry with each trigger pull. The first bullet took Alice Green just above the bridge of her nose. The second went through one of the empty holes in the door where a frosted glass panel had only been 150 seconds before. The third struck Julia Sigsbee in the leg. Her gun flew from her hand and she folded to the floor, a look of unbelief on her face. You shot me. Why did you shoot me? Are you stupid? What do you think? Wendy said. She walked to the woman sitting against the wall, her shoes crunching on broken glass. The air stank of gunpowder in the office, once neat, now a shambles, was filled with drifting blue smoke. You were telling them to shoot the kid. Mrs. Sigsbee gave her the sort of smile reserved for those who must suffer fools. You don't understand. How could you? He belongs to me. He's property. Not anymore, Tim said. Luke knelt beside Mrs. Sigsbee. There were spatters of blood on his cheeks and a shard of glass in one eyebrow. Who did you leave in charge at the Institute, Stackhouse? Is he the one? She only looked at him. Is it Stackhouse? Nothing. Drummer Denton stepped in and looked around. His pajama shirt was soaked with blood down one side, but he looked remarkably alert in spite of that. Gadao Debira was peering over his shoulder, eyes wide. Holy shit, Drummer said. It's a massacre. I had to shoot a man, Catal said. Mrs. Goolsby, she was shooting a woman who was trying to shoot her. It was a clear case of self-defense. How many outside? Tim asked them. Are they all down, or are some still active? Annie pushed Catal Debira aside and stood next to Drummer. In her cerate with a smoking gun in each hand, she looked like a character from a spaghetti western. Tim wasn't surprised. He was beyond surprised. I believe everyone who got out of those vans is accounted for, she said. A couple wounded, one with a bullet in his foot, one hurt bad. That was the one Debira shot. The rest of the sons of bitches look like they are dead in here. She surveyed the room. And Christ, who's left in the sheriff's department? Wendy, Tim, thought, but did not say. I guess she's the acting sheriff now, or maybe Ronnie Gibson will be when she comes back from vacation. Probably Ronnie. Wendy won't want the job. Andy Goolsby and Richard Bilson were now standing with Catal behind Andy and Drummer. Bilson surveyed the main room with dismay. Bullet-riddled walls, broken glass, pools of blood on the floor, sprawled bodies, and put a hand to his mouth like so. Addie was made of sterner stuff. Doc's on his way. Half the town's out there in the street. Must have alarmed. What happened here? Who's that? She pointed at the skinny boy with the bandage on his ear. Luke took no notice. He was fixated on the woman in the pantsuit. Stackhouse? Sure. Has to be. I need to get in touch with him. How do I do that? Mrs. Sigsbee only stared at him. Tim knelt beside Luke. What he saw in the pantsuit woman's eyes was pain, disbelief, and hate. He couldn't be sure which of those predominated, but if forced to guess, he would have said hate. It was always the strongest, at least in the short term. Luke paid no attention. All of his attention was focused on the wounded woman. I need to get in touch with them, Mrs. Sigsbee. He's holding my friends prisoner. They're not prisoners. They're property. Wendy joined them. I'm thinking you must have been absent on the day your class learned about Lincoln freeing the slaves, ma'am. Coming in here, shooting up our town, Annie said. Guess you found out, didn't you? Hush, Annie, Wendy said. I need to get in touch with him, Mrs. Sigsbee. I need to make a deal. Tell me how to do it when she didn't reply, though Luke jammed his thumb into the bullet hole in her red pants. Mrs. Sigsbee shrieked, Don't! Oh, don't! That hurts! Zap sticks hurt! Luke shouted at her. Glass shards rattled across the floor, forming small creaks, and he stared, eyes wide with fascination. Injections hurt. Being half drowned hurts, and having your mind ripped open. He jammed his thumb against the bullet wound again. The door to the holding area slammed shut, making them all jump. Having your mind destroyed? That hurts most of all. Make him stop, Mrs. Sigsbee screamed. Make him stop hurting me. Wendy bent to pull Luke away. Tim shook his head and took her arm. No, it's a conspiracy, Annie whispered to Drummer. Her eyes were huge. That woman works for the conspiracy. They all do. I knew it all along. I said it, and nobody believed me. The ringing in Tim's ears was starting to fade. He heard no sirens, which didn't surprise him. He guessed the Stadies might not even know where he had been shot out into prey, at least not yet, and anyone calling 911 would have to reach out to the South Carolina hallway. No, they would not but patrol, but the Fairleigh County Sheriff, this shambles, in other words. He glanced at his watch and saw with disbelief that the world had been right side up only 5 minutes ago, 6 at most. Mrs. Sigsbee, is it? He asked, kneeling beside Luke. She said nothing. You are in a great deal of trouble, Mrs. Sigsbee. I advise you to tell Luke here what he wants to know. I need medical attention. Tim shook his head. What you need to do is do some talking. Then we'll see about medical attention. Luke was telling the truth, Wendy said, to no one in particular, about everything. Didn't I just say that? Annie almost crowed. Doc Roper pushed his way into the office. Holy Jesus on resurrection morn, he said. Who's still alive? How badly is that woman hurt? Was it some kind of terrorist thing? They're torturing me, Mrs. Sigsbee said. If you are a doctor, as that black bag you're carrying would seem to suggest, you have an obligation to make them stop. Tim said the boy you treated was running away from this woman in the raiding party she brought with her. Doc, I don't know how many are dead out there, but we lost 5, including the sheriff, and it was on this woman's orders. We'll deal with that later, Roper said. Right now I need to take care of her. She's bleeding, and somebody needs to call a goddamn ambulance. Mrs. Sigsbee looked at Luke, bared her teeth in a smile that said I win, and then looked back at Roper. Thank you, doctor. Thank you. There's a biddy with sand in her craw, Annie said, and not without admiration. Della, I shot in the foot, maybe not so much. I go see him. Where are you? I think he'd sell his own grandma into white slavery for a shot of morphine. Mrs. Sigsbee's eyes widened in alarm. Leave him alone. I forbid you to talk to him. Tim got to his feet. Forbid and be damned. I don't know who you work for, lady, but I believe your days of kidnapping children are over. Luke, Wendy, come with me. Chapter 38. Hell is waiting. The end of the Institute. 2 more chapters to go. House lights had come on all over town. Or 2 more parts, I should say. There's chapters in the parts. Nonetheless, they're like acts in a movie. House lights had come on all over town, and Dupree's main street was full of million people. The bodies of the dead were being covered by whatever came to hand. Somebody had taken orphan Annie's sleeping bag out of the alley and draped it over Robin Lex. Dr. Evans had been completely forgotten. He would conceivably have limped his way to one of the park's mom vans and gotten away, but had made no effort to do so. Tim, Wendy, and Luke found him sitting on the curb in front of the gym. His cheeks gleamed with tears. He had managed to work his shoe off and was now staring at a bloody sock covering what looked like a badly deformed foot. How much of that was bone damage and how much swelling that would eventually go down? Tim neither knew nor cared. He neither knew nor cared. "What is your name, sir?" Tim asked. "Never mind my name. I want a lawyer, and I want a doctor. A woman shot me. I want her arrested." "His name is James Evans," Luke said, "and he's a doctor, just like Joseph Mengele was." Evans seemed to notice Luke for the first time. He pointed at the boy with a trembling finger. "This is all your fault." Luke lunged at Evans, but this time Tim held him back and pushed him gently but firmly to Wendy, who took him by the shoulders. Tim squatted on his hunker so he could look the pallid, frightened man dead in the eye. "Listen to me, Dr. Evans, listen closely. You and your friends came high riding into town to get this boy and killed 5 people. All police officers. Now you might not know it, but South Carolina has the death penalty. And if you think they won't use it, and double quick for killing a county sheriff and 4 deputies." "I had nothing to do with it," Evans squawked. "I was hearing the protest." "Shut up," Wendy said. She still had the late tag Faraday's Glock, and now she pointed it at the foot that was still shod. "Those officers were also my friends. If you think I'm going to read you your rights or something, if you're out your goddamn mind, what I'm going to do if you don't tell Luke what he wants is put a bullet in your other." All right, yes." Evans reached down and put protective hands over his good foot, which almost made Tim feel sorry for him. Almost. "What is it? What do you want?" "I need to talk to Stackhouse," Luke said. "How do I do that?" "Her phone," Evans said. "She has a special phone. She called him before they attempted. You know, the extraction. I saw her put it in her coat pocket." "I'll get it," Wendy said, and turned back toward the sheriff's station. "Don't just bring the phone," Luke said. "Bring her." "Luke, she's been shot. We might need her," Luke said. His eyes were stony. "Why?" "Because it was chess now, and in chess you never lived in the move you were about to make, or even the next one. 3 moves ahead, that was the rule, and 3 alternates to each of those, depending on what your opponent did." She looked at Tom, who nodded. "Bring her. Cuff her if you need to. You're the law, after all." "Jesus, what a thought," she said, and left. Now at last Tim heard a siren, maybe even 2 of them, still faint though. "This man, don't call the cops, yo." Luke grabbed his wrist. Tim thought the boy looked totally focused, totally aware, and also tried to death. "I can't get caught in this. They have my friends. They're trapped in there. There's nobody to help but me." "Trapped in this institute?" "Yes, you believe me now, don't you?" "It'd be hard not to, after what was on the flash drive and all this." "What about that drive? Do you still have it?" Luke patted his pocket. "Mrs. Sigsbee and the people she works with mean to do something to these friends of yours so they end up like the kids in that ward." "They were already doing it, but then they got out, mostly because of Avery, and Avery was there because he helped me get out. I guess you call that irony, but I'm pretty sure they're trapped again. I'm afraid Stackhouse will kill them if I can't make a deal." Wendy was coming back. She had a boxy device that Tim supposed was a phone. There were 3 bleeding scratches across the back of the hand that held it. She didn't want to give it up, and she's surprisingly strong. Even after taking a bullet, she handed Tim the gadget and looked back over her shoulder. Orphan Annie and drummer Denton were supporting Mrs. Sigsbee across the street. Although she was pale and in pain, she was resisting them as much as she could. At least 3 dozen DePray townsfolk trailed behind them, with Doc Roper leading the pack. "Here she is, Timmy," Orphan Annie said. She was panting for breath, and there were red marks on her cheek and temple where Mrs. Sigsbee had slapped her, but Annie looked not like the lightest bits of discomposed. "What do you want to do?" "What do you want us to do with her? I suppose stringing her up is pretty much out of the question, but ain't it an attractive idea?" Doc Roper set down his black bag, grabbed Annie by the scrape, and pulled her aside so he could face Tim. "What in God's name are you thinking of? You can't transport this woman anywhere. You have to kill her." "I don't think she's exactly a death's door, Doc," drummer said. "Hit me a lick, like to break my nose." Then he laughed. "Ha ha 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 ha." Tim didn't believe he had ever heard the man laugh before. Wendy ignored both drummer and the doctor. "If we're going to go somewhere, Tim, we better do it before the state police get here." "Please." Luke looked first at Tim, then to Doc Roper. "My friends will die if we don't do something." "I know they will. And there are others with them, the ones they call the Gorks." "I want to go to the hospital," Mrs. Sigsbee said. "I've lost a lot of blood, and I want to see a lawyer." "Shut your cake hole or I'll shut it for you," Annie said. She looked at Tim. "She ain't hurt as bad as she's trying to make out. Bleeding's already stopped." Tim didn't answer immediately. He was thinking of the day, not so long ago, when he had swung into Sarasota's Westfield Mall to buy a pair of shoes. Nothing more than that. And a woman had run up to him because he was in uniform. A boy was waving a gun around up by the movie theater, she said. So Tim had gone to see, and had been faced with a decision that had changed his life. A decision that had, in fact, brought him here. Now he had another decision to make. "Bandage her up, Doc. I think Wendy and Luke and I are going to take these two for a little ride and see if we can straighten this thing out. Give her something for pain, too," Wendy said. Tim shook his head. "Give it to me. I'll decide when she gets it." Doc Roper was looking at Tim, and Wendy, her too, as if he had never seen them in his life. "This is wrong." "No, Doc, it was Annie," and she spoke with surprising gentleness. "She took Roper by the shoulder and pointed him past the covered bodies in the street and at the sheriff's station, with his smashed window and doors. That's wrong." The doctor stood where he was for a moment, looking at the bodies in the shut-up station. Then he came to a decision. "Let's see what the damage is. If she's still bleeding heavily, or if her femur's shattered, I won't let you take her." "But you will, though," Tim thought, "because there's no way you can stop us." Roper knelt, opened his bag, and took out a pair of surgical scissors. "No," Mrs. Sigsbee said, pulling back from drummer. He grabbed her again immediately, but Tim was interested to see that before he did, she was able to put her weight on her wounded leg. Roper saw it too. He was getting on, but he still didn't miss much. "You're not going to do field surgery on me in this street. The only thing I'm going to do surgery on is the leg of your pants," Roper said. "Unless you keep struggling, that is. Do that, and I can't guarantee what will happen." "No, I forbid you to." Annie seized her by the neck. "Woman, I don't want to hear no more of what you forbid. Hold still, or your leg's the last thing you'll be worrying about. Get your hands off me, only if you'll be still. Otherwise I'm apt to wring your scrawny neck." "Better do it," Addie Goldsby advised. "She can be crazy when she gets one of her spells." Mrs. Sigsbee stopped struggling, perhaps as much from exhaustion as the threat of strangulation. Roper scissored neatly around her slacks 2 inches above the wound. The pant leg collapsed around her ankle, exposing white skin, a tracery of varicose veins, and something that looked more like a knife slash than a bullet hole. "Well, sugar," Roper said, sounding relieved. "This isn't bad. Worse than a graze, but not much." "You got lucky, ma'am. It's already clotting." "I am badly hurt," Mrs. Sigsbee cried. "You will be, if you don't shut up," Drummer said. The doctor swabbed the wound with disinfectant, wrapped a bandage around it, and secured it with butterfly clips. By the time he finished, it seemed that all of Dupre, those that lived in town at least, were speculating, actually, I'm sorry, spectating Tim. Meanwhile, looked at the woman's phone. Tim did. A button on the side lit up the screen and a message reading power level 75%. He powered it down again and handed it to Luke. "You keep this for now?" As Luke put it into the pocket containing the flash drive, a hand tugged his pants. It was Evan's. "You need to be careful, young Luke, if you don't want to have to hold yourself responsible, that is." "Responsible for what?" Wendy asked. "For the end of the world." miss, for the end of the world." "Shut up, you fool," Mrs. Sigsbee said. Tim considered her for a moment, then he turned to the doc. "I don't know exactly what we're dealing with here, but I know it's something extraordinary. We need some time with these two. When the state cops show up, tell them we'll be back in an hour. 2 at most. Then we'll try to get on with something at least approximating normal police procedure." This was a promise he doubted he would be able to keep. He thought his time to Dupre, South Carolina was almost certainly over, and he was sorry for that. He thought he could have lived here, perhaps with Wendy. Now we're on chapter 39 of the part of the end of the Institute called Hell is Waiting. Gladys Sixon stood in front of the Stackhouse at parade rest, her feet apart and her hands behind her back. The fake smile that every child in the Institute came to know and hate was nowhere in evidence. "You understand the current situation, Gladys?" "Yes, sir. The back half residents are in the access tunnel." "Correct. They can't get out, but as of now, we can't get in. I understand that they have tried to, shall we say, fiddle with some of the staff, using their psychic abilities." "Yes, sir. It doesn't work." "But it's uncomfortable." "Yes, sir, a bit. There's a kind of humming. It's distracting. It's not here in admin, at least not yet, but everybody in front half feels it." Which made sense, Stackhouse thought. Front half was closer to the tunnel, right on top of it, you could say. Excuse me. Uh, gotta drink the coffee. It seems to be getting stronger, sir. Excuse me. Listening to Halloween style sort of music on the ear headphones. Getting back to the story, sorry about that. Seemed to be getting stronger, sir. Maybe that was just her imagination. The guy over in the corner is swaying back and forth, you know. He had too much to drink and not enough breathing. He was coughing. The coughing, the coughing, the coughing, the coffee. Maybe that was just her imagination. Stackhouse could hope so, and he could hope. Donkey Kong was right when he insisted that Dixon and his friends couldn't influence prepared minds, not even if the Gorks were adding their undeniable force to the equation. But as his grandfather used to say, "Hope don't win horse races." Perhaps made uneasy by his silence, she went on. "But we know what they're up to, sir, and it's no problem. We get 'em by the short and curlies." "That's well put, Gladys. Now, as to why I asked you here, I understand that you attended the University of Massachusetts in the days of your youth." "That's correct, sir, but only for 3 semesters. It wasn't for me, so I left and joined the Marines." Stackhouse nodded. No need to embarrass her by pointing out what was in her file. After doing well in her first year, Gladys had run into fairly serious trouble during her second, in a student hangout near the campus. She had knocked a rival for her boyfriend's affections unconscious with a beer stein and had been asked to leave not just the joint, but the college. The incident had not been her first outburst of bad temper. No wonder she picked the Marines. "I understand you were a chem major." "No, sir, not exactly. I hadn't declared a major before I decided to leave." "But that was your intention." Yes, sir, at the time." "Glad to suppose we needed to use an unjustly vilified phrase, a final solution concerning those residents in the access tunnel. Not saying it would happen, not saying that at all, but supporting it did. Are you asking if they could be poisoned somehow, sir?" "Let's say I am." Now Gladys did smile, and this one was perfectly genuine, perhaps even relieved. "If the residents were gone, that annoying hum would cease. Easiest thing in the world, sir, assuming the access tunnel is hooked up to the HVAC system, and I'm sure it is." "HVAC? Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, sir. What you want is bleach and toilet bowl cleaner. Housekeeping will have plenty of both. Mix them up and you get chlorine gas. Put a few buckets of that stuff under the HVAC intake duct that feeds the tunnel. Cover it with a tarp to get a good suck going on, and there you are." She paused, thinking, of course, you might want to clear out the staff and back half before you did it. There might be only one intake for that part of the compound. "Not sure. I could look at the heating plans if you—" "That won't be necessary," Stackhouse said. "But perhaps you and Fred Clark from janitorial could get the, uh, proper ingredients ready. Just as a contingency, you understand." "Yes, sir. Absolutely." "Glad it's looked raring to go. Can I ask where Mrs. Sigsbee is? Her office is empty, and Rosalind said to ask you if I wanted to know." "Mrs. Sigsbee's business is none of yours, Gladys, and since she seemed to be determined to remain in military mode, he added, dismissed." She left to find Fred the janitor and start gathering the ingredients that would put an end to both the children and the hum that had settled over front half. Stackhouse sat back in his chair, wondering if such a radical action would become necessary. He thought it might, and was it really so radical, considering what they had been doing here for the last 7 decades or so? Death was inevitable in their business after all, and sometimes a bad situation required a fresh start. That fresh start depended on Mrs. Sigsbee. Her expedition to South Carolina had been rather harebrained, but such plans were often the ones that worked. He remembered something Mike Tyson had said: once the punching starts, strategy goes out the window. His own exit strategy was ready in any case, had been for years. Money put aside, false passports, 3 of them put aside, travel plans in place, destination waiting, yet he would hold here as long as he could, partly out of loyalty to Julia, because he believed in the work they were doing. Keeping the world safe for democracy was secondary. Keeping it safe, full stop, was primary. No reason to go, yet he told himself the apple cart is tipping, but it hasn't turned over. Best to hang Susie, who's still standing once the punching is over. He waited for the box phone to give out his strident "Brr, brr." When Julia filled him in on the outcome down there, he would decide what to do next. If the phone didn't ring at all, that would also be an answer. Now we're on chapter 40 of this part of The End of the Institute by Stephen King. Hell is Waiting. There was a sad little abandoned beauty shop at the junction of US 17 and SR 92. Tim pulled in and walked around to the van's passenger side where Mrs. Sigsbee was sitting. He opened her door and then pulled the slider back. Luke and Wendy were on either side of Dr. Evans, who was staring morosely down at his misshapen foot. Wendy was holding Tag Faraday's Glock. Luke at Mrs. Sigsbee's box phone. Luke with me. Wendy, sit where you are, please. Luke got out. Tim asked for the phone. Luke handed it over. Tim powered it up and then leaned in the passenger door. How does this baby work? She said nothing. Simply looked straight ahead at the boarded up building with its faded sign reading Airport 2000. That faded sign. Crickets erupted from the direction of Dupre. They could hear the sirens. Closer now, but still not in town. Tim judged they would be soon. He sighed. Don't make this hard, man. Luke says there's a chance we can make a deal, and he's smart. Too smart for his own good, she said, then pressed her lips together, still looking through the windshield, arms crossed over her scant bosom. Given the position you're in, I'd have to say he's too smart for yours as well. When I say don't make this hard, I mean don't make me hurt you. For someone who's been hurting children, hurting them and killing them. Luke put in, killing other people as well. For someone who's been doing that, you seem remarkably averse to pain yourself. So stop the silent treatment and tell me how this works. It's voice activated, Luke said. Isn't it? She looked at him surprised. You're TK, not TP, and not that strong in TK at that. Things have changed, Luke said. Thanks to the Stasi lights. Activate the phone, Mrs. Sigsbee. Make a deal, she said, and barked a laugh. What deal could possibly do me any good? I'm dead no matter what. I failed. Tim leaned in the sliding door. Wendy, hand me the gun. She did so without argument. Tim put the muzzle of Deputy Faraday's service automatic to the pant leg that was still there, just below the knee. This is a Glock, ma'am. If I pull the trigger, you will never walk again. The shock and blood loss will kill her. Dr. Evans squawked. 5 dead back there, and she's responsible, Tim said. Do you think I'll really care? I've had it with you, Mrs. Sigsbee. This is your last chance. You might lose consciousness at once, but I'm betting your lights will stay on for a while. Before they go out, the pain you feel will make that bullet groove in your other leg feel like a kiss goodnight. She said nothing. Wendy said, Don't do it, Tim. You can't. Not in cold blood. I can. Tim wasn't sure this was the truth. What he did know for sure was that he didn't want to find out. Help me, Mrs. Sigsbee. Help yourself. Nothing. And time was short, and he wouldn't tell the state police which way they went. Neither would drummer Addie Goolsby. Doc Roper might. Norbert Hollister, who had kept prudently out of sight during the Main Street shootout, was an even more likely candidate. Okay, you're a murderous bitch, but I'm still sorry I have to do this. No 3 count. Luke put his hands over his ears and to stifle the sound of the gunshot, and that was what convinced her. Don't. She held out her hand. Give me the phone. I think not. Then hold it up to my mouth. Tim did so. Mrs. Sigsbee muttered something and the phone spoke. Activation rejected. You have 2 more tries. You can do better, Tim said. Mrs. Sigsbee cleared her throat and this time spoke in a tone that was almost normal. Sigsbee 1, Kansas City Chiefs. The screen that appeared looked exactly like the one on Tim's phone. He pushed the phone icon, then recents. There, at the very top of the list, was Stackhouse. He handed the phone to Luke. "You call. I want him to hear your voice, then give it to me. Because you're the adult, and he'll listen to you. I hope you're right." Hell is Waiting, Chapter 41, The End of the Institute. Almost an hour after Julia's last contact, much too long, Stackhouse's box phone lit up and began to buzz. He grabbed it. "Have you got him, Julia?" The voice that replied was so astounding that Stackhouse almost dropped the phone. "No," Luke Ellis said. "You've got it backward." Stackhouse could hear undeniable satisfaction in the little shit's voice. "We've got her." "What? What?" At first he could think of nothing else to say. He didn't like that "we." What steadied him was the thought of 3 passports locked in his office safe, and the carefully thought-out exit strategy that went with them. "Not following that?" Luke asked. "Maybe you need a dunk in the immersion tank. It does wonders for your mental abilities. I'm living proof. I bet Avery is too." Stackhouse felt a strong urge to end the call right there, to simply gather up his passports and get out of here quickly and quietly. What stopped him was the fact that the kid was calling at all. That meant he had something to say, maybe something to offer. "Luke, where is Mrs. Sigsby?" "Right here," Luke said. "She unlocked her phone for us. Wasn't that great of her?" "Us? Another bad pronoun. A dangerous pronoun." "There's been a misunderstanding," Stackhouse said. "If there's any chance we can put this right, it's important that we do so. The stakes are higher than you know." "Maybe we can," Luke said. "That would be good." "Terrific. If you could just put Mrs. Sigsby on for a minute or two, so I know she's all right." "Why don't you talk to my friend instead? His name is Tim." Stackhouse waited, sweat trickling down his cheeks. He was looking at his computer monitor. The kids in the tunnel who had started the revolt, Dixon and his friends, looked like they were asleep. The Gorks weren't. They were walking around aimlessly, gabbling away and sometimes running into each other like bumper cars in an amusement park. One had a crayon or something and was writing on the wall. Stackhouse was surprised. He wouldn't have thought any of them still capable of writing. Maybe it was just scribbling. The goddamn camera wasn't good enough to make it out. Fucking substandard equipment, Mr. Stackhouse? "Yes, who am I speaking to?" "Tim, that's all you need right now. I want to speak to Mrs. Sigsby." "Say something, but make it quick," said the man calling himself Tim. "I'm here, Trevor," Julia said, "and I'm sorry. It just didn't work out." "How?" "Never mind how, Mr. Stackhouse," said the man calling himself Tim, "and never mind the queen bitch here. We need to make a deal, and we need to do it fast. Can you shut up and listen?" "Yes." Stackhouse drew a notepad in front of him. Drops of sweat fell on it. He mopped his forehead with his sleeve, turned to a fresh page, and picked up a pen. "Go ahead." "Luke brought a flash drive out of this institute place where you were holding him. A woman named Maureen Alverson made it. She tells a fantastic story, one that will be hard to believe, except she also took video of what you call either Ward A or Gorky Park. With me so far?" "Yes." "Luke says that you are holding a number of his friends hostage along with a number of children from Ward A. Until this moment, Stackhouse hadn't thought of them as hostages, but he supposed that from Elvis's point of view. Let's say that's the case, Tim." "Yes, let's say that. Now here comes the important part. As of now, only 2 people know Luke's story and what's on that flash drive. I'm one. My friend Wendy's the other, and she's with me and Luke. There were others who saw it, all cops, but thanks to the queen bitch here and the force she brought with her, they're all dead. Most of hers are dead too." "That's impossible," Stackhouse shouted. "The idea that a bunch of small-town cops could have taken out Opal and Ruby Red combined with ludicrous." It was ludicrous. Boss lady was a little too eager, my friend, and they were blindsided in the bargain. But let's stay on point, shall we? I have the flash drive. I also have you, Mrs. Sigsby. I also have your Mrs. Sigsby and a Dr. James Evans. Both of them are wounded, but if they get out of this, they'll mend. You have the children. Can we trade?" Stackhouse was dumbfounded. "Stackhouse, I need an answer." "It would depend on whether or not we can keep this facility secret," Stackhouse said. "Without that assurance, no deal makes any sense." A pause, and Tim was back. "Luke says we might be able to work that out. For now, where am I going, Stackhouse? How did your pirate crew get here from Maine so fast?" Stackhouse told him where the Challenger was waiting outside of Alcaloo. He really had no choice. Mrs. Sigsby can give you exact directions once you reach the town of Beaufort. Beaufort. Now I need to talk to Ellis again. Is that really necessary? As a matter of fact, it's vital. There was a brief pause. Then the boy was on the secure line. "What do you want?" I assume you have been in touch with your friends, Stackhouse said. Perhaps one friend in particular, Mr. Dixon. No need to confirm or deny. I understand that time is short, in case you don't know exactly where they are. They're in the tunnel between back half and front half. That was unsettling. Nevertheless, Stackhouse pressed on. That's right. If we can reach an argument, they may get out and see the sun again. If we can't, I will fill that tunnel with chlorine gas, and they will die slowly and unpleasantly. I won't see it happen. I'll be gone 2 minutes after I give the order. I'm telling you this because I feel quite certain that your new friend Tim would like to leave you out of whatever deal we make. That cannot happen. Do you understand? There was a pause, and then Luke said, Yes, I understand. I'll come with him. Good. At least for now. Are we done? Not quite. Will Mrs. Sigsbee's phone work from the airplane? Sorry. Faintly Stackhouse heard Mrs. Sigsbee say that it would. Stay close to your phone, Mr. Stackhouse, Luke said. We'll need to talk again, and you need to stop thinking about running. If you do, I'll know. We have a police woman with us, and if I tell her to contact Homeland Security, she will. Your picture will be at every airport in the country, and all the fake ID in the world won't do you any good. You'll be like a rabbit in an open field. Do you understand me? For the second time, Stackhouse was too dumbfounded to speak. Do you? Yes, he said. Good. We'll be in touch to fine-tune the details. With that, the boy was gone. Stackhouse set the phone down carefully on his desk. We noted that his hand was trembling slightly. Part of that was fright, but it was mostly fury. We'll be in touch, the boy had said, as though he were some hotshot Silicon Valley CEO. And Stackhouse, a paper-pushing underling who had to do his bidding. We'll see about that, he thought. We'll just see. Now we're on 42 of the end of the Institute. Hell is waiting. Luke handed the box phone to Tim, as if glad to be rid of it. How do you know he has fake ID? Wendy asked. Did you read it in his mind? No, Luke said. I bet he has plenty of passports, driver's licenses, and birth certificates. I bet a lot of them do. Maybe not the caretakers and techs and cafeteria staff, but the ones on top. They're like Eichmann or Walter Rauff, the guy who came up with the idea of building mobile gas chambers. Luke nodded at Mrs. Sigsbee. Ralph would have Rauff. Ruff would have fit right in with your people, wouldn't he? Trevor may have false documents, Mrs. Sigsbee said. I do not. And although Luke couldn't get into her mind, she had closed it off to him. He thought she was telling the truth. There was a word for people like her, and the word was zealot. Eichmann, Mengel, and Ruff had run like the opportunistic cowards they were. Their zealot Fuhrer had stayed and committed suicide. Luke felt quite sure that if given the opportunity, this woman would do the same. As long as it was relatively painless, just stare at them some more. That's not what they want to say. They. He climbed back into the van, being careful to avoid Evan's wounded foot. Mr. Stackhouse thinks I'm coming to him, but that's not right. No, Tim asked. No, I'm coming for him. The Stasi lights flared in front of Luke's eyes on the growing gloom, and the van's sliding door rolled shut on its own. The big phone is the next part. There's two more parts to the end of the Institute. The big phone and the lisping man. The big phone is two more videos. See you shortly. Support AEW. Alright, peace. JakeJohnson19.com. Creativity with a passion for a purpose. To entertain, to motivate, to inspire.